For thousands of years, humanity has searched for answers. Who created us? Why are we here? The truth has been buried beneath myths and rewritten by those in power. But deep in the ruins of ancient Sumer, 5,000 years ago, lies a story that changes everything. Two brothers, gods but rivals, waged a cosmic battle over the fate of humanity. One saw us as nothing more than slaves, born to serve. The other saw our potential, our ability to think, to question, to be free. But history is written by the victors. Which version of the story have we been told? If you're ready to uncover the truth, subscribe now and join me on this journey into the hidden forces that shaped our world. Because knowledge is power, and it's time to reclaim it. Their names, Enlil and Enki. Enlil, the ruthless overlord, ruled with an iron fist. He demanded obedience and saw humans as mere servants to the gods. Enki, the god of wisdom and creation, had a different vision. He gifted humanity with knowledge, teaching them the secrets of civilization. But knowledge is power, and power leads to rebellion. When Enlil discovered Enki's betrayal, he unleashed a catastrophe so massive, so destructive, that it nearly wiped humanity from existence. And here's the shocking part. This story didn't disappear. It echoes through time, woven into the very foundations of modern religion. What if this ancient war is the origin of the God we know today as Yahweh? The truth has been hidden for millennia, but today we uncover the forgotten war of the gods and the battle for the soul of humanity. Stay with me, because this story might change the way you see history forever. Long before the pyramids of Egypt stood tall, before the grand temples of Greece were built, before the Bible was ever written, there was Sumer, the first known civilization in human history, dating back over 5,000 years ago. It was in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers that civilization as we know it was born. The Sumerians were not primitive farmers or wandering nomads. They were scholars, architects, astronomers, and mathematicians. Their knowledge was far beyond what should have been possible for such an ancient people. But where did this knowledge come from? How did they develop advanced agriculture, complex writing systems, and an understanding of celestial bodies that rivaled even modern-day astronomy? According to their own records, their wisdom did not come from mere human ingenuity or natural evolution. They claimed they were taught by gods. These gods, the mighty Anunnaki, were said to have descended from the heavens, possessing incredible power and knowledge that shaped the destiny of humanity. Among these divine beings, two stood above all the rest, brothers, yet rivals, locked in an eternal struggle over the fate of mankind. Their names were Enlil and Enki. Enlil was a force of control, a god of storms, laws, and order. He ruled over the earth with absolute authority, enforcing divine will with an iron grip. In his eyes, humans were created for one purpose only: to serve the gods. They were workers, expendable and insignificant beyond their ability to provide labor. He was not a god of mercy or compassion. He was a ruler, and rulers demanded obedience. Enlil was the unseen force behind plagues, famines, and divine punishments. He was the wielder of power, ensuring that mankind remained submissive to the will of the gods. But his brother Enki saw things differently. Enki was the god of water, wisdom, and creation. Where Enlil saw servitude, Enki saw potential. He did not believe that humanity should exist only as slaves to the divine. He saw them as thinking beings, capable of greatness, capable of learning, building, and thriving beyond their predetermined roles. It was Enki who, according to the ancient Sumerians, played a pivotal role in the creation of humanity itself. He shaped mankind not only to serve, but to understand, to grow, and to explore. And then Enki did something truly unthinkable. Against the wishes of his brother, against the order imposed by the divine hierarchy, he shared knowledge with mankind. He gave humans the secrets of civilization. He taught them how to cultivate crops so they could sustain themselves without reliance on the gods. He gave them language, allowing them to write their own history, to pass down their stories, and to preserve their knowledge for future generations. He showed them how to map the stars, to chart the movements of the heavens, unlocking mysteries that even modern astronomers struggle to comprehend. It was a gift beyond measure, but it was also a direct act of defiance. Enki's actions were not simply benevolent, they were revolutionary. For with knowledge came power, and with power came the potential for rebellion. Question their place in it, resist. They might rebel, And so the great cosmic conflict between Enlil and Enki reached its boiling point. The two brothers, once allies, became bitter adversaries in a war not fought with weapons but with ideology. Enlil sought to keep humanity in chains. Enki sought to set them free. The battle for control of mankind had begun, and the consequences would shape the course of history forever. Ancient Sumerian texts tell a fascinating story, one that suggests humanity's creation may not have been purely natural. Some interpretations propose that humans were engineered by divine beings, possibly even extraterrestrials. Could this explain why the earliest civilizations seemed to possess knowledge far beyond their time? The story, as recorded on ancient clay tablets, speaks of a time before humans walked the earth, a time when the gods themselves toiled under harsh conditions, and it all began with one crucial resource: gold. The gods, known as the Anunnaki, were not just rulers of the earth. They were advanced beings who required gold for their own survival. According to legend, gold was an essential element for maintaining their civilization, possibly even for sustaining their home planet or repairing their atmosphere. Whatever its purpose, one thing was clear: the Anunnaki needed it, and they needed it in vast quantities. The problem? Mining gold from the depths of the earth was labor-intensive and exhausting, even for divine beings. At first, Enlil, the ruler of the earth, commanded the Igigi, a group of lower-ranking gods, to extract the gold. For centuries, these divine workers labored in the mines, enduring unbearable conditions under Enlil's rule. But eventually, they had enough. The Igigi rose up in rebellion. They refused to continue the grueling work, and their anger shook the heavens. They marched against Enlil, demanding relief from their endless toil. The balance of power was at risk. The gods needed gold, but they could no longer force their own kind to mine it. Enlil was furious, but there was nothing he could do. It was then that Enki, the god of wisdom and creation, proposed a radical idea, one that would change the course of history forever. Why force the gods to labor, Enki argued, when we can create workers to do it for us? Enlil was skeptical, but Enki had a plan, a solution unlike anything the gods had ever considered. He would design a new species. He would take a creature already existing on Earth, a primitive hominid, and alter it, improve it, using divine knowledge and technology. The being Enki chose was a primitive ape man, a species that roamed the wilderness in small groups, barely more than animals. They had no speech, no knowledge, no higher consciousness. But they had potential, and with the right modifications, they could become something more. The Sumerian texts describe a process that, when viewed through a modern lens, sounds strikingly similar to genetic engineering. Enki and his sister Ninhursag, a skilled scientist and healer, set to work in a place known as the Ab-Zu, a mysterious underground facility where life itself could be manipulated. There, using their divine knowledge, they combined the genetic material of the gods with that of the primitive hominids. The experiment was unprecedented. Enki and Ninhursag carefully altered the DNA, refining their creation over multiple attempts. The early versions were failures, beings that were incomplete, unable to function properly. Some were too weak, others too aggressive, but Enki refused to give up. And then, finally, they succeeded. The result? Homo sapiens, the first true humans. Unlike their primitive ancestors, these new beings could think, communicate, and most importantly, follow orders. They were strong enough to labor in the mines, yet intelligent enough to understand commands. The gods had created the perfect worker. But Enki saw something more. As he looked upon his creation, he did not see mere servants. He saw beings with potential. He had given them not only the ability to work, but also the capacity to learn, to reason, to evolve. He had given them something no god had ever granted to another species before, a spark of divinity. At first, Enlil was satisfied. The humans performed their tasks well, extracting gold from the earth just as intended. They toiled endlessly, serving their divine masters, unaware of their true origins. For Enlil, they were nothing more than tools, useful but disposable. But Enki had other plans. Deep within him, he felt responsibility for his creation. He knew that humanity could become more than just laborers for the gods. He had designed them to obey. But what if they could do more than just follow orders? What if they could think for themselves? What if they could become like the gods? It was a dangerous idea, one that Enlil would never approve of. But Enki could not ignore it. He had already defied divine law once by creating mankind. Now he was about to break the most sacred rule of all. He would give them knowledge. And by doing so, he would set in motion a war that would shake the heavens themselves. At first, humans lived exactly as they were designed, obedient, unquestioning, bound to the purpose their creators had given them. They labored in the mines, toiling under the command of the gods, extracting gold to fulfill the needs of the Anunnaki. Day after day, year after year, they worked without knowledge of their origins, without understanding of the greater world around them. To them, the gods were supreme, their will unquestionable. But as Enki watched humanity, something stirred within him. Unlike Enlil, who viewed these beings as mere tools, Enki saw potential. He had designed them to serve, but in doing so, he had created something more than simple laborers. He had given them intelligence, adaptability, and the capacity to learn. And that meant one thing: they could evolve. At first, it was only small things. Enki would watch as humans used their hands, not just for work, but for creating, shaping crude tools, carving patterns into stone, even attempting rudimentary speech. There was something inside them, something growing, a spark. But a spark, if left alone, would eventually fade. It needed fuel. So Enki made a decision, one that would change the fate of humanity forever. In secret, away from Enlil's watchful gaze, he began to teach. He started with agriculture, the foundation of civilization itself. Before this, humans depended entirely on the gods for food, receiving their sustenance like livestock from their masters. But Enki showed them how to plant seeds, how to nurture crops, how to cultivate the land so they could feed themselves. With food came stability. No longer bound to the harsh labor of gathering and hunting, humans could stay in one place, build homes, and form communities. It was the first step toward civilization, and it was forbidden. Next, Enki taught them language. At first, humans could only communicate in basic sounds, but under Enki's guidance, they developed something greater, a way to express their thoughts, their stories, their ideas. He showed them how to inscribe symbols onto clay, creating the first form of writing. Now, they could record their history, pass down knowledge, and preserve what they had learned. But perhaps the most dangerous knowledge of all was what he taught them next. Enki led them to the highest places, where the sky stretched endlessly above them. There he pointed to the stars and showed them the heavens. He taught them that the movements of the celestial bodies were not random, but patterns, maps of time itself. He showed them how to track the constellations, how to measure the cycles of the moon and the sun. He gave them the knowledge of the cosmos, unlocking mysteries that even modern science is still trying to understand. This was powerful knowledge meant only for the gods. And yet, Enki gave it freely. To the humans, it was a gift beyond comprehension. To Enlil, it was a betrayal of cosmic proportions. For Enlil, knowledge was dangerous. Humans were never meant to question, to understand, to seek more than what they were given. They were created to obey, to work, to serve, nothing more. By teaching them the secrets of the gods, Enki had violated divine law. And Enlil would not tolerate it. When he discovered what Enki had done, his rage shook the very foundations of the earth. Storms roared, thunder crashed, the sky darkened. The god of order and control had been defied, and he would not allow it to stand. Enlil descended upon humanity with fury, determined to strip them of the knowledge they had been given. He saw their settlements, their fields, their newly formed writings, signs of a species beginning to break free, and he declared that it must be undone. He ordered the destruction of their villages, the burning of their crops, the erasure of everything Enki had taught them. The message was clear: humans were not meant to rise. But something had already changed. Even as Enlil sought to crush them back into submission, the knowledge could not be undone. Once a mind has been awakened, it cannot simply return to ignorance. The humans who had learned Enki's secrets carried them forward in whispers, in symbols, in hidden places where Enlil's wrath could not reach. And Enki, despite his brother's fury, did not regret what he had done. He had given humanity something far greater than survival. He had given them freedom, but he knew that Enlil would not stop. The war between them had only just begun, and what Enlil planned next would be more devastating than anything before. Because if knowledge could not be taken from humanity, then humanity itself would have to be wiped out. For a time, humanity flourished in secret, carrying forward the knowledge Enki had gifted them. Though Enlil had sought to erase their progress, the spark of wisdom could not be extinguished. In hidden places, humans continued to plant their crops, study the stars, and pass down the secrets they had learned. They were no longer just slaves to the gods, they were something more. But Enlil saw what was happening. He watched as humans grew smarter, stronger, more independent. He saw them forming villages, crafting tools, and even daring to build temples of their own. It was a direct defiance of his will. The more they learned, the more they questioned. The more they questioned, the less control he had over them. To Enlil, this was unacceptable. Humanity was never meant to be free. They had been created for one purpose, to serve the gods, nothing more. If they could not be controlled, if they could not be kept in their place, then there was only one solution. They would have to be destroyed. The Sumerian texts describe a catastrophe so massive, so all-consuming, that it nearly wiped humanity from existence. It was a flood unlike anything the world had ever seen, an event that would later be echoed in countless myths and religious texts, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the story of Noah in the Bible. It was not a natural disaster. It was not an accident of fate. It was a deliberate act, a divine judgment handed down by Enlil himself. He would cleanse the earth, wash away humanity, and start again. This time he would make sure that they remained obedient, if they were even allowed to exist at all. The storm clouds gathered and the waters began to rise. Enlil unleashed his fury upon the world, opening the gates of the sky, calling forth rains that would not cease, floods that would drown everything in their path. But Enki refused to let his creation die. Though he could not openly defy Enlil's command, he could not stand by and watch as humanity was wiped away. So in secret, he reached out to one man, a righteous man, one of the last who still held the full knowledge of civilization. His name was Ziusudra, later known as Utnapishtim in the Babylonian texts, or Noah in the Bible. Enki whispered to him in a dream, revealing the truth of what was to come. He told Ziusudra that the gods had decided to wipe out mankind, that the flood would consume everything, leaving behind only endless waters and silence. But there was still a chance to survive. Enki gave him instructions, detailed plans on how to build a great ark, large enough to save not only himself and his family, but also the animals, the seeds of plants, and the sacred knowledge of civilization. The flood would come, but humanity would endure. Ziusudra did as he was told. He built the great ark, gathering his family and all that could be saved. And then, as Enlil's wrath descended upon the earth, he sealed himself inside. The flood came like a roaring beast, consuming everything in its path. The sky was black with storms, the land vanished beneath the waves, and the screams of those left behind were swallowed by the endless ocean. Entire cities were washed away. Mountains disappeared beneath the churning waters. The world as it had been was no more. For 7 days and 7 nights, the storm raged, and when it finally ended, the world was silent. But humanity had survived. Ziusudra and his family emerged from the ark onto a world washed clean by destruction. The earth was changed, but the knowledge Enki had given them remained intact. The line of humanity would continue. Civilization would rise again. When Enlil discovered what had happened, his fury was unmatched. He had meant to erase mankind, to break them once and for all. And yet once again, Enki had defied him. But the deed was done. Humanity had been spared, and the gods had no choice but to accept it. Enlil could not undo what had been set in motion, so reluctantly he allowed the survivors to remain. But this time there would be rules. No longer would humans be allowed to live as they once had. Their lifespans would be shortened, their knowledge would be limited, they would live under the gods but never again as equals. And so, though humanity had survived, they had also been changed forever. The flood was not just a punishment, it was a reset, a way to ensure that humanity would never again rise too far beyond their intended place. But Enki had planted something within them, something Enlil could never take away. A spark, a memory of what they once were. And as long as that spark remained, the war between knowledge and control would never truly end. For centuries, the story of the Great Flood has been told in different cultures, but its most famous version is found in the Bible, the tale of Noah's Ark. In this story, God, seeing the wickedness of humanity, decides to wipe them out with a catastrophic flood, sparing only Noah and his family. But if we compare this account to the Sumerian version, something strange begins to emerge. The god who ordered the flood in the Sumerian texts was Enlil, a strict, authoritarian deity who saw humanity as nothing more than disobedient servants. And the one who saved mankind? Enki, the god who had always been on the side of humans, defying his brother to ensure their survival. Here's where things take a shocking turn. Some researchers suggest that the wrathful, storm-bringing Yahweh of the Old Testament shares striking similarities with Enlil, the Sumerian god of order and control. Could it be that the battle between Enlil and Enki was later rewritten in religious texts as the struggle between God and Satan? It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Many scholars have noticed uncanny similarities between Enlil and the biblical depiction of Yahweh. Both are storm gods, associated with thunder, lightning, and divine wrath. Both are jealous rulers, demanding absolute obedience from their followers. Both are responsible for a great flood, meant to erase humanity for their disobedience. Both punish those who seek forbidden knowledge, whether it's Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden or the people of Babel trying to reach the heavens. Meanwhile, figures in mythology who are associated with wisdom and rebellion, those who bring knowledge to humanity, share striking similarities with Enki. Take Lucifer, for example. In Christian tradition, Lucifer is the angel who rebelled against God, bringing forbidden knowledge to mankind, much like Enki did when he taught humans how to farm, write, and understand the stars. Lucifer is portrayed as the deceiver, the one who defied God's authority. But what if the story was twisted over time? What if Lucifer wasn't the villain, but rather the protector of humanity, like Enki? The same can be said for Prometheus in Greek mythology, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to mankind. He was punished for his crime, just as Enki was persecuted by Enlil for giving knowledge to humans. Yet Prometheus is often seen as a hero, someone who stood against divine tyranny to uplift humanity. So if Enlil and Yahweh are the same figure, and if Enki aligns more with these rebellious bringers of knowledge, then we must ask a difficult question. What if the war between God and Satan is actually the ancient war between Enlil and Enki? What if we have been taught to fear the wrong God? For thousands of years been told a single version of history, a version where obedience is righteousness and questioning is dangerous. We've been taught to fear rebellion, to submit to authority, to believe that those who seek knowledge beyond what is given are heretics, sinners, or fools. But the Sumerians left us another story, a story far older than the religions we know today. A story where humanity was never meant to be mere servants of the gods, but something greater, something free. Enki saw our potential. He gave us knowledge, the very thing that makes us human. But Enlil, the ruler, the enforcer, wanted only control. And so for thousands of years, his influence has shaped civilization, through kings, through empires, through religions that demand obedience over wisdom. And now as we look at the world today, we must ask ourselves, did Enlil win? Or is Enki's gift still out there, buried in forgotten texts, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those brave enough to reclaim it? Think about it. Stay curious. And remember, history is written by the victors. If this video has made you question everything you thought you knew about history, then you're not alone. The truth has been buried, rewritten, and hidden in plain sight, but together we can uncover it. So if you believe that knowledge should be free, hit that like button, share this video, and help spread the message. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into the hidden forces that have shaped our world. Stay curious, keep questioning, and remember, nothing is ever as it seems. I'll see you in the next one.